welcome to Season 3 of Sustainapod, a youth-led podcast for the youth and anyone passionate about issues related to sustainability in India. My name is Deeya, and let's get straight into the episode. Literacy is an important skill to have in an ever-changing society like ours. Unfortunately, without certain information such as what to read, where to access it, how to read, and why it's beneficial, some are left without this skill. However, literacy can often be unsustainable in its practices, and our guest Bailey Cherry has been dedicating her time to tackle this very issue. Bailey Cherry founded Rebooked in 2019, a platform promoting sustainability in literacy by providing a free and convenient way for books to be donated, including an online shop for families to access these books. Bailey is also the co-founder of EcoGo, an award-winning directory website for sustainable stores and restaurants in Hong Kong. Through EcoGo, she hopes to make it easier for people to go green. Now, Rebooked has grown to be Hong Kong's largest bookstore for pre-loved kids' books. How did it all begin?
Yeah, so like Deeya said, it began in 2019. The idea came to me around spring while I was doing my spring cleaning, and my mom was going through a big phase of wanting to let go of items. So she was really re-cleaning. She watched, I don't know if you know, but Marie Kondo has this whole thing about what sparks joy, and she was very much oh, this doesn't spark joy. We need to sort of let it go. So my mom was very getting the whole family into that, and we realized that we had actually accumulated a lot of children's books over the years because I was a big reader, and then after I read the books, I passed them on to my sister, who was a few years younger than me, and so we had books all the way from board books and picture books to where we were about then, so chapter books for preteens and teenagers. And obviously the books at a younger age that we enjoyed were now not our reading level, and now books that we didn't enjoy at the moment just because we had already read them, or like I said, our reading level had improved and we're just much older now. So as a result of that, I really had to put all those books together, and I wanted to donate them somewhere. But the problem was, here in Hong Kong, I found it very difficult to find a place to donate. So there are quite a few NGOs, and we reached out to these NGOs, and many of them said that they weren't looking for books at the moment, quite frankly because there are a lot of them that get donated and they were still getting through the previous book donations, or simply because they took up a lot of space, or maybe they just specified on a certain product that wasn't books, or they were currently looking for food items, for example. So for various reasons, these NGOs wouldn't accept them. And then I also tried to bring them to secondhand bookstores, but I noticed that at these big secondhand bookstores in Hong Kong, or at least the ones that were pretty well known, there was a very limited selection of kids' books. So I didn't really want to donate it to a place where it would just be sitting on a shelf, and I wouldn't really know if a child would find them and read it and enjoy it as much as I did. So when I first identified that problem and that personal need, I started reaching out to my friends and family friends, and I also did some research. So in general, I just asked about their experiences purchasing secondhand products, whether they had secondhand books to give, and I just learned about recycling and literacy in Hong Kong in general. And I sort of identified three major needs or problems. The first one, access to books in Hong Kong. So in Hong Kong, English language children's books tend to be very expensive because they are imported, and there are a few large franchises that carry these books, but for people who can't necessarily afford it, it's very out of our budget, especially for low-income households or people who really don't want to spend that much on a singular book that their child may read once, or may enjoy but may just give up on it. So I don't know, there was just this need for a cheaper option for books. And then the second problem was just Hong Kong has a monumental waste problem.
Yes.
You know what I mean? We shop a lot, we buy a lot, but we also throw away a lot. So
yes,
from everything to food waste, to plastic, to paper waste, which is sort of what we're talking about here, Hong Kong isn't, or at least at the time, wasn't super into either recycling or reusing products. Sustainability, yeah. So I sort of thought that there must be a way to make it easier for people to reuse or donate books that they no longer needed, just to help stop that contributing to the overall waste.
Yeah.
And then the last one was that Hong Kong people like it when you make stuff easy for them because, we're all busy people.
Yes, definitely.
And we're all busy, and we all have, jobs or an education that we're focusing on. So if there's an easy way to get people involved, they'll be more inclined to do it than if there's a higher barrier of entry. So I figured that, looking at the overlap between the waste problem, the issue of accessibility to books, and making it easy for people, that's really where a platform or like a website initially, like Rebooked, was found, because it's something that gets people involved easily, because you just need to contact us and we'll pick up your books, or you can just order online, so it's a very easy transaction for them. And then also it's cheap, it's a books are around a quarter of the retail price, and it helps people not simply just, throw away books in the recycling bin or even in the trash. So that's sort of how it all started.
That's great. I find it really amazing how you've conducted a lot of in-depth research and how this kind of stemmed from like your own personal challenge, and now you're tackling more of a worldwide issue. So what are some like valuable takeaways you've learned through your youth advocacy journey?
Yeah, so the first one I would say is the importance of support and like community. So just youth advocacy in general, sometimes, you don't really know where to start, and it's hard starting as a singular teenager trying to make a difference in a world that seems so big. And I think in times like that, you really need people you can turn to. So the first one I would say is like trying to find a mentor or an adult field who has experience and is willing to give you their time. And I'd also say try to find a team that can support you with that as well. The importance, not to sound cliche, but like teamwork makes the dream work. But yeah, it's really important to have a team with different skill sets, but all with the same passion, so that you all have something to bring to the table. And also, just like through social media nowadays, it's also easy to find a community online who is willing to support your project. So I'd say my biggest takeaway is to find a community that does that. Other small takeaways, as like cliched as they may sound, I would say, keep persisting regardless of what other people think. I think with sustainability, nobody will, some people do, I would say do not believe in it, but even within Hong Kong, like even apart from not believing it, I think it's more common for people to have a sort of apathy towards it. And even though people may not necessarily believe or want to do anything towards the cause you're working towards, it's important to persist because you know that you're making a difference. I don't know, otherwise I would say those are my couple of my main takeaways. And also at the end of the day, have fun.
Yes.
I don't know, because I think with sustainability, it's such a big issue that can induce a lot of anxiety, like climate anxiety and that kind of stuff, because you see how like the world is changing today and you're not really liking where it's going.
Very relatable.
Yeah. Because like you see all the headlines are extremely negative, and so if you're having fun and making positive change, I think at the end of the day it's going to be really rewarding.
Yeah, and if you have like a passion for something, it definitely helps with staying motivated and actually working for your cause.
Exactly, like having a goal and having a passion is very important, because if you know what you're working towards, everything else will follow.
Yeah, everything falls into place for sure.
Exactly. That's so lovely.
Speaking of journeys, each ups and downs, and we kind of briefly touched upon this earlier, but could you tell us more about some of the biggest challenges and rewards that you've come across by founding Rebooked?
Yeah, for sure. So with Rebooked, I think, and with this in general, I think there's the inevitable, which was initially with Rebooked, we were collecting books directly from customers by me personally going to their house and picking up their books themselves.
Oh, wow.
I know, so for the first few months, every weekend, like I would like drive around or like meet people in MTRs and that kind of stuff to pick the books up myself. And then with COVID, my parents were very against that.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Pretty obvious as to why. And then similarly with book orders, I would also either like I'd meet people in the MTR station and like pass them the book order and that kind of stuff. So with that, our business plan sort of had to change, and I think that just shows the value of being like adaptable regardless of what you're doing, because you really cannot predict something as big as the pandemic. Like,
that's very true.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And then another challenge that I think we're facing a bit more now is just having a large influx of books. So I'm very grateful for every person who donates books, because it's showing that they're supporting our mission. It's showing that they are not throwing away books to a recycling bin or to a landfill, and rather picking a more sustainable option. But I think with that, first of all, that's just a lot to take in for a small business like us. But like I said, we're so grateful for it. But then I also think that as we continue, this concept of like wish cycling has sort of arose, which is basically where people like are really eager to recycle or they want to feel like they're doing something really good, so they recycle or they like donate products that don't necessarily fit with our criteria. So people, I mean, as much as we do love people doing good and people wanting to like not throw away stuff, sometimes we receive books that are either not within our book range or not within the quality standards. This idea of like, you know, wish cycling, like I said, is a bit tedious at times. So those are a couple of the main challenges. As for rewards, that's a really good question. I would say I really enjoy changing people's opinions on what a secondhand product looks like, because as you can see in like the store, the secondhand books are genuinely like high quality products, and a lot of them are like nearly new or have barely any stains or tears or molding. And when people come in, I really appreciate how they're able to look through the books and be like, oh wow, this looks just like brand new. And I think through Rebooked, I'm sort of trying to break down people's perception of what secondhand is, one book at a time, because I don't want people to think of sustainable products as lesser, or I don't want them to think of a sustainable product and be like, oh, but it's either more expensive or less good quality, or, you know, it's not as good, or in general, or something like that. So I'm glad that through Rebooked, I'm able to see people's perspective change. And also, it's also really redeeming and rewarding to see kids reading. It's amazing to see that you're contributing to someone's education and someone's learning, especially in a time of COVID-19 where libraries and schools are closed. And like I said COVID sort of had an impact on our business model, but at the same time it did have a positive like consequence as well, which was the fact that people got to know more about COVID because it was an easy way for them to get, people got to know more about Rebooked during COVID because it was an easy way for them to have access to books remotely, because it was like an online store. And then my last one would probably be, again, very redeeming to see us working with beneficiaries, because apart from the secondhand bookstore, we also donate books to different local and international organizations. So we've worked with Refugee Union here in Hong Kong, and we've also passed books to ethnic minority students, underprivileged children, and then even children in the Philippines. So it's incredible to receive pictures or see comments from them that are really positive as well.
That's amazing, honestly, and I think there's something just very wholesome about that.
You
can expand this whole platform like globally, and it's really great. And yeah, I think speaking of COVID-19 in terms of challenges, the fact that I used to personally go and deliver these books in like MTR stations, I think with COVID it definitely affects the fact that sometimes you might not be able to foster such a closer community in that sense. But I think the way that you built this store, this like retail store, it just serves that purpose again of like being a comfort zone and a nice place to contribute for like children's education.
That's so right.
Because it's very cozy and it's a nice way for people to like, you know, learn, donate books, and like really build their knowledge. So
I'm really glad you think that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's kind of what we're trying to do, so I'm really glad you think that.
Well done. So yeah, what is like one of the most unique things about Rebooked as a platform? What makes it stand out a lot?
Okay, so two things. That was like a great transition, because I actually just wanted to talk about like the community in general, because aside from being a bookstore, it is really a community space. Not only do people come here to, as you probably can like imagine, like kids sit in those chairs and like read for like a couple hours on end, which is adorable, but it's also a space where we've had different events. So we've had book readings with local authors, we've had like Girl Scouts come in and do a little like talk with me and ask me questions, which is very just adorable. And then we've had different like learning centers and classes from schools come in as well, and all of them sort of want to learn about youth change making or youth advocacy as well as sustainability. So the fact that this space can serve as a location for people to learn more about an issue like, you know, the environment, or an issue like, you know, a solution to the environmental issues like sustainability is incredible, because it's really what we want it to be, in the sense of like teaching others. And it's gone from education through books to education through this like lovely community that we've got going on. And I'd also say another thing that is really unique is it is very predominantly student-led. So our team members that work here throughout the week are gap year students. So it's a good way for them to get some experience and earn some, like earn a wage, and then also they're just like the sweetest people ever. So it's lovely to have them there. And then throughout like holidays and breaks, we have high school students and like families who come in and volunteer. So again, a good option to get experience and learn more about what like running a business is like.
For sure, that's great. And again, like the sense of community is very evident. So
Aww, yeah, that's so sweet. Oh my gosh.
Very nice. So shifting away a little bit, what are some of your current initiatives as part of Rebooked, and what are your future plans for this platform?
Yeah, so current initiatives with Rebooked is, well, we do have, like I said, frequent book readings. We have the store open from Monday to Saturday from like 12 to 6 p.m. And that's sort of what we've got going on right now. We do join a few like Saturday markets and bazaars and that kind of stuff, which is very sweet too. And we continue to work with a lot of NGOs, and we're really looking to increase the NGOs that we work with, because as more and more books come in, we have more and more to share with like the wider community. And then I'd say in the future, and sort of now, is we're really looking to expand overseas. Similar, but not exactly the same business models. One of the things in Hong Kong that really makes this business model work is sort of the circular part of it, where people donate books and then in return they receive store credit to use back at the store and buy more books. So that's one thing that works here, but in other countries it might be a model where people just donate books and then we pass them on to NGOs or pass them on to like libraries or those that need them. And so we're exploring business models like that. I'm currently in talks with people in Turkey and Brazil. So little like high school students also in Turkey and Brazil, and I'm currently helping them set up a website and like platform for that right now. And then we are still talking to people in Singapore and the Philippines, looking to do that. But yeah, so those are the plans for Rebooked there.
Amazing. All the best with those. If there's
Thank
any
you.
way we could support you, let us know.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I hope you have more guests in your Saturday markets through this podcast.
I hope so too.
Yeah. So, how have you extended this idea of sustainable literacy beyond Rebooked?
Yeah, so sustainable literacy has quite a few like definitions. So with Rebooked, we're really focusing on, like literacy and sustainability, which is like secondhand books, and making sure people have sustainable access or like sustained access to educational materials. But then another definition for it is sort of being literate when it comes to making decisions about sustainability. So like, being aware of your options when you choose certain like light bulbs for energy consumption and that kind of stuff, as like a random example. But in that sort of sense, being aware of your options and being sustainably literate.
Yeah.
I recently I co-founded a website called EcoGo, a website and Android app. And EcoGo is a platform for people to learn more about sustainable organizations and restaurants in Hong Kong. So essentially what it does is it's a directory, and it can sort by price range and location and a bunch of other factors. Basically, we're making it the barrier to entry to learn about sustainable products is lower, and really making it more accessible to people who might not have that information initially.
Amazing. Yeah. So I hope you get more clicks on your website for EcoGo.
Thank you so much.
I think it's definitely a very useful resource, especially in such a, like cosmopolitan city like Hong Kong. It really helps you, open your mind a little bit more and make more sustainable choices in your daily lifestyle. And yeah, sometimes like these individual actions that one can do actually do make quite of a difference in the long run. You may not see the short-term benefits, but they really do help the climate in the long run, especially as a holistic, action.
Yeah, and just adding on to that, like we both take econ and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But if you show that there's sort of like a demand for sustainable organizations and businesses, especially in a city like Hong Kong, demand creates its own supply. So there will be more of them, and you're really supporting like the whole system and community
positive externalities of consumption, positive advertising. Yeah, it's really good. So definitely go check out EcoGo and visit Rebooked whenever you can. And speaking of, sustainable literacy and Rebooked, what resources do you recommend to people who would like to gain more knowledge about this sector?
So when it comes to sustainability, I have a couple forums, like media platforms that I recommend, which are like Green Queen and Green is the New Black. And then obviously Sustainapod is great for learning about sustainability and hearing the perspectives of many different people in the sustainability sector. Continuing to read books about climate. I forget the title, but recently I believe it was Bill Gates who released a book about sustainability. I need to check about that. But I had the chance to like flip through it and sort of read a little bit, and that was very, very powerful. So I just say staying educated through the free resources and books that you're able to get your hands on.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a very good way to start. You get used to it more, you can always go bigger from where you started.
Exactly.
So last question, what advice would you give to someone who is planning to start their own initiative?
I would say just do it, like the slogan coming in there, but there will never truly be a perfect situation to start your own initiative.
Very true.
I don't think there will ever be a perfect idea or a
Yeah.
perfect team or a perfect demographic you're working with, but at the end of the day, it's all about adapting and learning throughout and growing from your experiences as you go along your like change-making journey.
Yes.
So if you just bite the bullet and go for it, I think that would really propel you forward, and the sooner you're able to do it, the more you'll be able to do.
For sure, yeah, just take that leap of faith. It's a learning process.
Exactly.
You grow as well during it. So definitely just grab onto an opportunity whenever you can, or start your own.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bailey, for all of your insights.
Thank you so much for having me.
No worries. Make sure to visit Rebooked and support the cause. Thank you to our Sustainapod listeners for tuning in this week with us. We would love to hear more about you from the episode, so let us know your questions and comments by messaging us on Instagram at sustainapod_GIH or email us at sustainapod@gmail.com.